This is Dabu7. I want to look at a few things that are coming up in the offing. We have September 29th that looks to be the last day of the fiscal year, although normally October 1st kicks off with the new fiscal year for many government agencies, and there's many deadlines. This transition time, this time of October throughout history has shown some of the biggest slumps we've ever seen. October 1987, you can see here in this chart, we can take a look at the charts from the Great Depression. 1929, you can see October is where it really kicked in. October 2008, this is when we had the massive drop. You can see the S&P dropped from 1150 to 850 in this time period. And what we have right now is a time where we're approaching a few different things here in terms of the currency, the money itself, the monetary base, the M1. Well, the M1 money multiplier is still less than 1, which reflects that for every dollar created by the Fed, which is an increase in the monetary base, that results in less than $1 increase in the money supply, or the M1. So this causes credit and deposit situations for banks. It impairs some of the transactions. And right now, man, so many banks and so many people have been busted manipulating so many things. It's just crazy. I've talked about it in several videos. If anything happens with the stock market, anything goes down, you should know by now that DB Bank just got drug into court, got busted manipulating gold and silver and everything else. So you can see right there, it's propped up and manipulated. They walked scot-free. They got a fine, but they didn't go to jail. This is continuing. Other outfits, Wells Fargo is in a bunch of hot water right now because of stuff they've done. And I think you're going to start to see this more and more, but there's going to be a shift. Before you're going to see this whole thing come crashing down, because in turn, if the US dollar does, the stock market does crash, you're going to see other currencies fall with it, although some may rise up briefly. I think this is all by design globally. I think this is why you've seen the whole blockchain technology rolled out. And just like any other thing I've warned about in terms of good and evil, you have a choice. And just like a car, just like a weapon, the stock market the same. You could do good things with it, but all too often we have had corrupt individuals manipulating it, getting away with it, and this is where it sits. Until some people out there get up enough heart and courage to change that game. That's where it sits. So if it all does come crashing down, you need to realize that there's players involved with that. It's just like going back and looking at the Depression. J.P. Morgan, the whole Jekyll Island thing, they made a false rumor and spread it, and it made a run on the banks and caused the Great Depression, and they got super rich and got away with it. Their offspring still operating to this day, their empires. J.P. Morgan Bank. While the whole country suffered. You see? And that was on a plot to get rich by a few while the rest of the country suffered. It's known now. You need to know history before it repeats itself. And as Mark Twain said, it may not repeat itself, but it often rhymes in very close ways. Now, there's one other thing I want to point out here about October. We have Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin informing Congress on Friday that action would be needed on the debt ceiling by September 29th. He says based upon their available information, he believes that it is critical that Congress act to increase the nation's borrowing authority by September 29, 2017. I urge Congress to act promptly on this important matter, he wrote. And he addressed this to Speaker Ryan. The Treasury Department is estimating that it will run out of funds to pay its debts and interest on this date, and that the financial markets will be watching all this action. So if Congress fails to act, the U.S. would default. They're saying that date falls on a Friday and coincides with the last weekday of the fiscal 2017 year. By the time everything comes back around to the next business day, it is October. And these are the things the country's facing. This deadline. And none of your mainstream outlets out there are really talking about it. Now, the Hill actually slid a piece out today under their finance section that actually talks about this, where they quietly say, okay, we've got a debt limit here that we're going to hit by September 29th, and somebody better do something about it or we're going to default. This is exactly what it says here. Or the U.S. is going to default. So, I'm going to talk about this more tonight, Underground World News Live. Well, it's every Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern. May go live a little early tonight. Got a lot to talk about. Going to talk about updates to all the current events, anything else popping off. And I'm going to leave a link below so you guys can read into this and see that there is a deadline, that there is a lot going on here. And I'm going to talk about this shift because, back throughout the past 1,000 years or so in Britain, before paper money came along, they used the tally system. And they literally went in and confiscated the tally system, the tally sticks from the people to implement this new paper money system. Well, now we have creeping up through this whole blockchain technology, the cryptocurrency thing, which I think they're about to mass regulate. And once they mass regulate, you're going to see a huge shift. And how do I know this? Because I've been paying attention to what some of these cats are doing quietly. Like Goldman Sachs, they filed for the first patent on cryptocurrency, and they got awarded it. It's called the Settle coin. There's more than that coming. I'm going to talk about those details, and it's just like anything else I've talked about. Either good can take control, or bad. At this point, all too often we see the bad influence of things, the greed, the corruption, the manipulation, and the rich doing the things that we've shown, manipulating the whole system, just paying some chump change and continuing to keep on pushing. How's that ever going to change? We'll discuss that tonight. Dabu 777, Underground World News Live. See you guys there.